Good evening and welcome back, dear friends, to this new channel. Happy to see you again and happy to find you here once more in this lovely column that I know is highly anticipated and much loved by you, which is indeed from the press office of the higher plans. Let's say it is the most important information for our lives. Before the information that comes from matters concerning the earth, because the things of the earth are consequential to extraterrestrial events. So, first of all, I want to thank you for your presence last Friday, along with Ricardo. Either way, I greet everyone as I see that we are already many, including Ricardo, who is also following us from London. This time, Ricardo, you are not here, the one who balls my salon, my home, calls it our home. And now that we also have this channel and this column in this channel that they wanted, he calls it the virtual little house. Welcome everyone to this virtual home. Thank you truly for your closeness, and thank you also for all the comments and messages you have sent us. It is always very pleasing, not for our ego, but rather for our journey together, to see how the time we share is something that truly helps all of us and leads to a very beautiful and useful response in our lives. For those who are here for the first time, I want to remind you, I know many of you are long-time loyal followers, but for the new people, for the new friends who are following this column for the first time, from the press office of the higher plans, I created it years ago. It is basically the column in which I feed the pages chosen by you from the Extraordinary Manual for Living Life. This book that I have created, which I am now showing you, is the Extraordinary Manual for Living Life. This book is a sequel to the first one I made, which is Two Hands, Two Wings, an extraordinary interview with an archangel, which many of you, thousands of you, have read. In this book, there is the entire account of the story of my encounter with Ariel, what happened in my life, what I was asked to do, but then it was published in 2013 by Mediterranean Editions. Later, in 2019, I prepared the Extraordinary Manual for Living Life, also with Mediterranean Editions. Why did I write this book? I did it because hundreds and hundreds of you sent me emails over the years, asking me various questions. There were so many answers to provide for your queries that arose from reading Two Hands, Two Wings, and so I thought of creating a manual, a text, where each page expresses an important concept related to this journey with Ariel, my friend, our friend, we can say our friend, from the higher plans who has from other dimensions to provide this information. Do help us live our lives. This is what they say, and when they come to provide these aids, they do so exclusively to give us guidance so that we can better understand the meaning of our lives, and obviously our death, and to understand what responsibilities we have, and the power we possess. All of this is very important because, as I recalled, we were together with Ricardo in Turin, where we held the first level evolutionary training course, the high-level universal training course here in Turin. These were two truly intense and significant days that brought about a great renewal in the lives of the participants. These are the comments we continue to receive in these days, just after it concluded, and this pleases us because we are here to fulfill this task that we have been asked to do with Ricardo, and we are very happy to have these confirmations. So, A return to the discussion. It is important to understand that this manual has been created by taking all the important concepts that I have gathered. So, when Two Hands, Two Wings was released, 10 years had passed. Now it has been 23 years of information that I continuously add, because I keep doing my job as a journalist for the press office of the higher plans rather than focusing on earthly matters. However, you know that I always bring you information, and when we do this column, I always try to provide you with updates, not just when there are urgent needs. This happened, for example, with the live session we had last Friday, where Ariel requested in January to speak directly with you, so he asked to do this highly followed live session. Once again, I thank you on behalf of Pericasso and also on behalf of Ariel. So, in this column, what do? I mean, you indicate numbers that are the page numbers. I have included the message to provide numbers, as we would say playfully, but therefore to indicate a numbering that starts from page 23, as that is when the pages begin. The pages of the manual actually start from page 21, with each page containing a concept. I created the manual because people were writing to me, not only asking me many questions, but also telling me that they read this book, treating it a bit like an oracle. Sometimes they would open the pages at random when they needed advice. In short, they consulted it, I repeat, a bit like an oracle. And so I said to myself, why not give them a book where each page contains a concept, so that, if they open it, they really find what? You know that we always talk about coincidences, right? I found exactly what I needed. Do you believe it? Well, if you don't believe it, that's fine too. Just try, and who knows, maybe there will indeed be some confirmations. Anyway, I always say to write when there is a post, as you may have seen, today, this morning. So keep an eye out, dear friends. The breaking news is indeed the newsletter where you are informed about the live event that will take place. Therefore, I wrote in this morning's breaking news, I once again encourage you to subscribe to our social media. So, please go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please be kind. We do this as a great act of volunteering. Return our courtesy by clicking. You don't have to do much. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for anything. But please try to support us in this volunteering effort. So, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Essa Anna Tamburini Torre Sena, and then, on Facebook, there is the page for Essa, and there is also the group for Essa, also on Facebook. And then you can obviously find my profile as well, but I already have 5,000 friends, so I can't accept any more. I see many requests, but I cannot accommodate them because having reached the maximum, I cannot add beyond 5,000, but continue. Also subscribe to our group page being. And then there is the group on Facebook. Well, there is also the page on Facebook. The page is only for communications. It is for when someone also wants to make sponsorships. In other words, being part of the group is generated by joining the group on Facebook. On the Facebook platform, there is also Instagram, so follow us on Instagram as well. In short, we are trying to ensure that we communicate our existence and what we do, and you kindly share. Also invite your friends and anyone interested in these topics to subscribe to our social media. Well, so this evening I have gathered your proposals. I went to check the page. I saw a bit of the numbers you have posted, and I see that we are already quite a few, which I like. Let's also give a thumbs up to this live stream. How nice. Good. It is the evil, the manual. Yes, it is very, very useful, as Raphael writes. It is very useful. Many people confirm this to me then. It's a bit like a guide. Not just a manual, but also a guide. When there are moments, go ahead and review the lesson, as I always say, because it is important to keep the mind aligned with the right vision. Having the correct perspective on the meaning of life is crucial, as it influences how we respond emotionally to events and how we navigate the time of our lives. It is very important how we perceive existence. In the manual, I recount all the important concepts that were in Two Hands, Two Wings. I always remind you that these books are two essential books that everyone should have. Just the beard. If you have stored an well sediment these awarenesses within yourselves, you have everything you need to live. You just have to live, as Ariel says, as our friends from the higher plans say. These are the things they have come to give us as information to help us live our lives. So, in these two books, I always say to gift them. You know that I do charity work. My rights have no interest. I am not selling anything. I am telling you to give away these two books. Put them in. Everyone should have them in their home library, because they are crucial. People who have understood, that is, they always tell me that it was close to their bedside. Some carry it with them at all times, and those who are in moments of difficulty open it, always finding an answer, an idea, comfort, or support. So do this. Do this because you will see that if we want to improve humanity, we must start with ourselves and the people who are close to us. So, if you need to give a gift for an occasion, or if you want to help someone, if these books, you can be sure that you will be doing something very useful for which they will thank you, as I often see you write in your emails and messages. So I remind you that the numbers to choose, as I have told you, start from number 21 because after my introduction, we reach the very beginning of the pages of the manual, which start from number 21. Page 21 is the first page. Therefore, if you tell me numbers lower than 21, I cannot give you any answer at all because those are the pages of the introductions, not the pages of the manual. The pages of the manual range from 21 to 233, so I have already seen what you have written on my pages. Now I will start reading. But I also want to tell you that if you choose a page that is on a particular topic, it falls within the group of pages that, for example, talk about, I don't know, angels, love, and so on. I will tell you which topic goes from which page to which page. So if your numbers fall within that range, know that what I read to you and what I tell you, what I emphasize and complete for you, is also directed at you because you have chosen a page on that topic. And so I would say, first of all, I really thank you all again, because I see that there are many of us. I would start reading. I would begin to read from the first numbers, the ones I saw today. So, there are people who have written numbers that range from 21 to 35, which are the pages that talk about angels. So, between 21 and 35, there are the pages that talk about angels. Oh, who wrote to me? The number 26, which I am now going to read. The 36, the 35, the 33, the 35. So, on the 26th it says, we suffer greatly for you men. We follow you in your lives and see you waste so many opportunities. You are like twigs that break and get hurt. Instead, you should be twigs that bend to earthly experiences without being broken, becoming stronger and more resilient. And when the wind of life blows strong, they do not let themselves be defeated, but know how to resist. This was written on page 26. Now I am reading 37, then we will comment on everything together. There, say. I know the 37 and we were 30. Number 33. Among your perceptions, there is not only the possibility of seeing, speaking, touching, tasting, and feeling. Get used to thinking that there are deeper perceptions in the world that humans do not yet know, and that need to be explored gradually, slowly, as you do when you are children. Let go of the mind of your brain. Put it to rest for a while and open the mind of your heart. Begin to discover and listen to your new senses. Learn to call us with your heart. Call upon the forces of good that exist around you to help and advise you, to listen to you and to bring you aid. Try and try again to call them. Don't stop until slowly the door opens and you have learned to connect with our world and not be afraid of failing, because that door opens for everyone. On page 35 it is written, when unfortunately you decide to take a winding, dimly lit, or dangerous path, we cannot intervene and can do nothing but continue to stay close to you, to love you, to help you if possible, and to suffer together with you as you experience the consequences of an unhealthy choice. Now, these pages discuss what exists to help us in living our earthly lives. These are the pages that concern angels, that entity which we call angels, as they say, that is, you give us names, and will never be able to classify us. However, we have mental representations, iconographic representations, and our own beliefs. Beyond all this, what remains? What remains is the knowledge that they come to bring us, which is the only thing that matters, the one thing that counts. Because everything else, the appearance, the shape, the name, are just, as you often hear me say, mere embellishments of our mind. The necessity is, in some way, a possibility of representing a concept of a knowledge from our inner self. We need this earthly condition, the mind that belongs to the earthly dimension, moves with this system of representation. However, they, as they say, do not call themselves by name. We know for certain that they are energy, but we know for certain that when they come to help us, we should ask ourselves, question, but why do they come to help us? When they come to help us, there are also those who pretend to be the ones on the other side, as we often say that. In this dimension there is a dualism, and so we know that there are lights and there are shadows. Shadows are nonetheless useful, they are functional, for the evolution that allows us to try, to experiment, to choose, and ultimately to understand what light is and what shadows are. So they exist. They come to help us. They give us advice. They are entities. From other dimensions, we are talking about interdimensional contacts. When we talk about these levels, I am not referring the disembodied souls to our loved ones who have passed away. I am talking about higher levels, other dimensions, and higher dimensions. So, they come to tell us, look, we exist to help you. Learn to call us, and learn to get in touch with us, learn to listen to us, experiment, do as children do, you do it. You try again, you make mistakes, you fall, you get up. You stay there without having any feedback. But we need that exercise. And only through experimentation and repetition can we manage to activate these channels of ours. And these are not things that concern the mind. They are things that truly concern another brain, which is that of our heart, connected to our soul. So we must learn to do that exercise. If we want to call them, we should not call them with our mind, but we should call them with our heart, with our emotions, with our feelings, and they will come. They tell us to learn, to do it, and to learn to be there and listen. Do not be afraid even if nothing happens at first. It doesn't matter. Try again, try again, try again. And you will see that door will open for everyone, for all those who want. For those who are not interested, the door does not open. One must want to reach that door and turn the handle in order to enter and establish a connection. But they tell us to look, this is the way it is, and it is for everyone, it is for everyone. And then they also tell us, look, we exist. We exist even when you make choices with your free will that are unhealthy choices, which do not bring joy into your life. But perhaps you have stubbornly pursued your own pleasure, your own desire. Maybe you even knew that it wasn't really a right path to take, yet you wanted to do it anyway, chasing what I repeat is the foot, the instinct of heaven, the instinct of pleasure, the desire to pursue what we like. And perhaps, in the face of questions, especially regarding relationships and the actions we take that tell us, if you make unhealthy choices, we are still here beside you. You think that for us to be close to you, we should signal our presence. I perhaps shielding you from the suffering you have generated with your choices, with your free will, not with the things you have endured, but with the things you have chosen. He says that if you have choices, you must experience the effects of your choice. And if you do not choose healthy things, but rather unhealthy ones for your life, we stand by you to support you in experiencing the unpleasant and even painful effects, as these will teach you things they would not help us grow if A. prevented us from living the effects of our choices, because we only learn through the effects we generate, and when there are painful effects, we start to question ourselves and say that perhaps we had done something wrong. These are the pages that I have read, which you have pointed out, but I repeat, they are pages that concern angels. The angels are those entities that exist in the immaterial world and take care of us, or rather of our souls that are incarnated in this earthly dimension, and therefore they look after our evolution. They are not the only ones, as we will see. There are also the Nidar spirits, and I see that we are becoming more numerous. Thank you for your presence. I know that many will now add numbers that I may not be able to read, but surely we can start reading the pages that I have already noted that you have written to me. I am confident that we will find answers for everyone. Even if they are not the pages you have chosen, you will have the opportunity to hear things that are useful for all, not just for those who ask the question. Then we have those who asked about the numbers related to the spirit guide. So there are those who asked for page 37 and then age 46. So I tell you that the pages concerning the spirit guide go from page 37 to page 46. So if you have written any numbers in this range, know that we are reading pages that relate to your request. So on page 45, where it again talks about the guiding spirit, it is written that the guiding spirit is a great communicator. When you ask for help from the heavens, it is they who convey your request to us angels. He is energy, wise energy. He can quickly shift from his level of existence to ours. He does not have the heavy energy of your body. Learn to befriend him, the invisible friend who is close to you. Learn to connect with your great master. It's very simple, just talk to him. Talk to him as you do with your friends. He too, your spirit guide, speaks to you. You just need to learn to listen to it. You must practice to be able to feel it. Just as we angels do, you need to learn to feel within yourself. Not in your head, but deep within your heart. To do this, there is a need for silence. And to quiet the mind, there is a need for silence and peace. On page 46, we read that the guiding spirit is an evolved soul that continues its journey in another dimension close to yours. It is a wise energy with a vast wealth of knowledge, which it uses to help man complete the journey that he has already finished. From soul, it has become spirit, and no longer needs to incarnate. However, having already lived multiple lives on earth, he knows very well what it means, and what it is to be a man. He knows you men better than we angels do, because he was a man. For this reason, he is the great master of your soul, and for this, you must learn to listen to him and to speak with him. Here, in these pages and also in other sections, I repeat, which concern the guiding spirits from page 36 to page 46, we come to talk about what is truly our best friend, which is the entity from the immaterial world that is closest to us. It explains who he is, telling us that he was also a man, that he lived the experience on earth as a soul, incarnated as a man, who has gone through a path of evolution, and at a certain point no longer needed to return to this school, that is the earth, this gym that is the earth, because he learned what could be described as the prerequisites of knowledge and the understanding of good. So, it's like saying if you have already reached the 5th grade, you don't keep going back to do things from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th again. No, you have reached that knowledge, move forward, and ascend to another level at that point. The soul no longer incarnates, it remains only spirit, because the soul, while it is spirit, is an emanation. I always say the soul is a hard disk. It is the emanation of the spirit. That allows us to store all the data, all the experiences, everything that we live. How do we store them? Energetically. Therefore, the soul is a large hard disk. It is a great memory, just like the entire universe. Quantum physics now explains this. So, nothing is destroyed. Everything remains. It is imprinted, an electromagnetic field. It leaves a mark. It leaves a memory of us, always. And so, the important thing is that our soul undergoes its own evolution, reaching a point where it no longer needs to incarnate and then remains only a spirit, not experiencing earthly life through a body. This means that, having lived as humans, having known the human dimension, and having experienced the struggles of the human condition, it knows and understands much more than other entities, other planes, and other dimensions, knowing much better than all the others. They are our best friends, our best advocates, when we review the things we have chosen to do when we leave this body. Therefore, we are in a phase of observation of the life we have lived, and when we return from the dimension we come from, which is indeed a dimension we call spiritual, immaterial, we return to that whole where we are a particle of that whole. And I repeat, they are the ones who know much more about humanity because they have been human, and therefore understand much more than those who are at a higher level than ours, much more evolved, who may have never experienced the human dimension and thus do not know the struggles and difficulties we face in living this earthly experience. One evening, Ariel told me, "It is certainly very tiring to be a man, and I would never want to be a man," she said, "because it is very hard. But we, precisely because we understand your struggle to live in this dimension, love you, protect you. They do not judge. It is we who judge. They do not judge. They love us and support us. There is no evil God on the other side, waiting to punish us. We are there, judges of ourselves, and we are the ones who review the things we have chosen to live. With our free will, we are the ones who build the evolutionary path of our soul, and this journey represents, each time, the consequence of everything we have done before. And that before is what creates the conditions for living what we will do. Afterwards, looking at everything we need to gain awareness and consciousness. And so we must understand that the first court is our own, meaning we are the judges of ourselves. And when we make certain choices, in that regard, there will be no possibility of diverting in any way, or finding loopholes because, as it is often said, karma makes no exceptions. We are faced with what we have generated ourselves. Returning to our discussion, the angelic entities, as we call them, exist as guides on another dimensional plane to assist in the evolution of our souls and to support them on a path that keeps them on the side of light. The concept of free will remains unchanged, whereby a soul and choose through its incarnations to take different paths, which it will obviously confront when it has completed its time of experience on earth. Therefore, if it has chosen the shadows, it will always have chosen the shadows, and will not lead one to think they are in the light. Moreover, it is very unlikely that those of the light will come to receive it. It is much more probable that those it has always chosen will come, that is, those of the shadows. It is also very interesting. Read in the book the chapter that also talks about the death of the soul, which is something that is not often discussed. When I worked on this, I always remind everyone that I have all the recordings. I have 23 years of recordings. I am not telling you things that are the result of my theory. I am bringing you the information I have received as a journalist. I always try to do this in the most ethically correct way possible, without distorting or imposing my interpretations on the things that have been said to me, because it would not be right for me to report to you contaminated information. Therefore, I am very concerned about being accurate in my dealings with you. Let's move on. Let's look at other pages. There are pages that talk about the destiny of reincarnation, which range from page 65 to page 76. So I know that some of you have already written to me about page 68 and page 75. Let's read together what is written. Here we are, page 68. Destiny is a project that you create and choose to realize when you are still a soul. Destiny tells us. Destiny is a project that you create and choose to realize when you are still a soul. In the dimension of the soul, that is, before being born into a body and becoming human. before starting earthly life for the first time, or before returning to continue developing the path of your soul's growth. This is why it is important for the soul to have more time, to learn, to be able to return, and to be reborn multiple times on earth, to continue walking, to be born, to live, to die, and then to be reborn, to live, to die again, and so on, each time with new projects, or to complete projects that were not finished in the previous life. On page 75, it is written that the great achievement of your grand life is to save your soul and not let it die. Understanding this is understanding life, the meaning of life, of your true life, which is discovered through the succession of reincarnations where every human being has a project, a specific task, a great mission that carries within it the experience of living, which is life itself. The true task of life is to live life, not to survive as often. Choose to act. These are very important pages because they talk about the destiny of reincarnation, explaining how the great games are played, not here, but in another dimension, the one from which we come, that whole, where we are precisely that particle of that whole, which we can call whatever we like. We can call it great energy, we can call it God, it doesn't matter. This is always, they always say, that these are our problems, which generally create issues, because names usually create divisions, and theories typically create divisions. On this, I must say that over the years I have understood well, I have grasped well, and therefore I do not waste time on names, on formalities, and I pay attention to substantial matters. And the essence is that when we talk about destiny and reincarnation, what are we actually talking about? It talks about that project that we are creating. Do not worry about how you represent yourselves in your mind, whether you will be sitting at a table, whether you will be on a cloud, where you will be. Do not concern yourselves with that. Try to understand the meaning of this thing. Understand that there is a design that has been generated by what? By the need for an evolutionary path. So, if one incarnates, for the first time, one experiences life and uses what we know to be the only true power we have in this dimension, which is free will. Therefore, through free will, we make choices. In these choices, we can create opportunities for awareness and practice, just as when we learn to write. We need to exercise in order to be able to hold the pen, to become aware of the meaning of words, of writing. And then we begin to develop what can be our compositional ability, and so on. So, we must become aware, and then we live with our soul, we live. This should indeed be a gymnasium where our soul can experiment. What does it have at its disposal? Time. The support of his experience is, first and foremost, time, which is generated through a condition that is created only here in this earthly dimension, because in this earthly dimension there is a beginning and there is an end. The soul incarnates and has a beginning and an end. It has a birth and a death, not of the soul, which one hopes will never come, but the birth and death of a body that is the instrument it has at its disposal to realize its project. This is why the discussion of the body is also important. The body is what allows us to realize that design, and we have somehow chosen how to experience it. So don't worry about how, just try to at least sense that we have chosen how to experiment. The acquisition of certain awarenesses when we incarnate for the first time We are a blank slate. But when we have undergone our first reincarnation during that time of the life we lived with that body, we began to build the evolution of our soul. And this is very interesting because it always helps us understand the importance of our choices. And so, when we choose, we are placing our actions in this great soul, and we are also building the evolution of our own soul. In some way, we make choices that can be directed towards the light or towards the shadows. They are either positive or negative, or they are constructive or destructive. This is the dimension of dualism, so if we are good at evolving quickly enough, going beyond this aspect of dualism, we are beyond it, and that is fine. So rest assured that we won't be coming back here, because it means we have already learned a lot. We should strive to overcome this dualism, but we need to have beautiful evolutions, which I wish for all of us. Therefore, destiny and reincarnation are closely linked because I create a little plan, what we call destiny. I come, I incarnate, and I experience trying to realize this plan. It is not guaranteed that we can always do it. Sometimes, precisely because we make choices with the Book of Vito, we may also take different paths. However, you know that they, the higher powers, care about our evolution. It doesn't matter if, for example, in the paths of spirituality, I always tell people, there are many paths of spirituality. We can take many roads. The important thing is to follow that path. However, and this is also said from the higher realms, do it. You cannot live a life without having undertaken a spiritual journey, or rather you can do it. You are free to do so, but it is certain that you sacrifice what could be your opportunity for growth. So, if we incarnate and make choices, and thus create a path, then our body arrives. And we know that just as it is born, it must complete its life cycle. There is a sense in this because there is a time for a beginning and an end that is determined before coming here. However, when Harry told me one evening, he said, you know, when you incarnate, there is a certain date for your birth. And from that moment, as you grow up, you begin to exercise your free will. Well, with our free will we can make choices that we may later regret. By intentionally jeopardizing physical safety, we are putting at risk the safety of this instrument of ours, this body of ours. The body is fundamental for the experience, otherwise we would not be here in this dimension. Ali explains to me that there are other dimensions, other planets, and other universes where souls live without a body. There are other realities where souls live with a body, and there are realities where there are beings much more evolved than us who have made different choices from ours. From our perspective, they have gone well beyond the dualism of good and evil. We need to understand this because there are many ways of existing, and the universe is not human-centric. We are a small part of it, and this is a healthy awareness. Therefore, at the moment we come here and have this body that has a beginning and an end, when the end arrives, the body is left behind. But what is the true life? That is, the soul remains alive. It is that immaterial, energetic, spiritual aspect that is our soul, which has used this shell, this garment called the body. Thus, reincarnation is important because it allows us to move forward in our evolution, since we are not highly evolved energies. Otherwise, we would not be here doing this exercise. The earthly dimension is the elementary school of the evolutionary path. You see, if we are here doing this, we need some time to learn, which is why we reincarnate in just one lifetime. It is not possible to reach such a high evolution, except for a few special and unique great masters who have existed. But generally, we are not like that. Therefore, destiny and incarnation are very important because they help us understand who we are. We are souls that need to evolve. Through these projects, we give ourselves opportunities to embark on paths of growth, and we have this ribbon of time available to us, which also has a limit. But it is what allows us to experience. But are all these realities of vital experiences for the soul always here on this earth? In other dimensions? This question is not very clear. I glanced at it for a moment because I wanted to ask, are these vital experiences for the soul always here on this earth? Am I always here on this earth in other dimensions? I can't quite understand this question. I don't understand if you want to tell me that the experiences we have on earth also occur in other dimensions. Is this what you mean, Paula, that I have read? Let's see, then. Follow me for a moment. I ask my assistants to look at this question because the experiences we have in a life are experiences of a lifetime. We are unique and repeatable. This is also very interesting, our uniqueness, the preciousness of our uniqueness. That, I repeat, nothing is as repeatable as our lives, as much as our lives. Because our soul is truly unique and unrepeatable, because only we, with our free will, can make general choices about realities, situations, and effects, and there is nothing that is the same as what we decide to do. It may be someone who can do things similar to ours, but the soul is unique. Your soul is not a soul that belongs to another. It is solely yours. And who is responsible for the evolution of your soul? Only you. No one else can do it for you. This is in relation to future scenarios. The real question, which therefore also arises in the face of a virtual reality, in the face of all our, as they say, the word escapes me, in front of. We see all the robots, all the simulation, the cloning of man, everything you want. That is, it will not be possible to clone the soul. This will be our salvation. Of course, they may try to simulate emotions, that much is true, but the soul is unique and unrepeatable. This is our salvation, right? This is our salvation. In other words, we must try to preserve our prerogatives as much as possible, to remain as human as we can, right? Let's move forward with life on Earth 77 and 93. From page 77 and page 93, there is a discussion about life on Earth, and two of you have stopped me at number 80. 80 and 81. On page 81, it is written that, without life on Earth, your soul could not evolve. Instead, thanks to reincarnations, one life after another, the soul progresses along its path, earth and death, and then again birth and death. Live and die as a body, then return to live in our dimension as a soul, and then die, again as a soul to be reborn as a man, again with one body after another, with your soul, which is one, that is, the soul does not change. It is important to remember that the soul is one, the bodies, the means, the instruments change, but the soul is always the same, having the potential for up to 7 reincarnations. This is an interesting topic, but it is not guaranteed that you will experience all 7. Fewer may suffice if you are able to evolve quickly. And all this, for what? To create around you a light, a path that leads you to the primordial light from which your soul was born. This is the true return home. In Inner Growth, on page 81, we read that in your spiritual evolution, the meaning of life must be sought. Without a path of spiritual growth, your life would be incomplete. It would be mutilated. Here is what it tells us. An important thing is something that many people write to me about and ask questions. Look, I can't tell you anything different from what I am told regarding this discussion about the 7 reincarnations. A lot of people have written to me, and there are also those who have said, no, that's not true. I am from the first. I myself, when I was working on this topic and preparing my outline with the questions, would then feel the response. Right, the first time I heard about the idea of 7 reincarnations, I immediately thought, no, how can that be? Even the Easterners say that we live many times, that first you are, then you become an animal before eventually becoming a soul. Just think of the Indians. The cow is sacred because it is believed to be the last incarnation before becoming a human. And you know, I also held on to all my beliefs. And of course, I eventually received all the answers, including those from many people who undergo certain paths, regressions, and so on, where they talk about many lives, many experiences. So, I delved deeply into this topic, and the important thing is to understand. I need to let you know this. I asked him about the number 7, and he replied, that man is not required to know everything. As I always say, even in the stages, there are things for which they put in place a security service. And the security mechanism is triggered because, rightly, they do not hand over the keys to the universe, to us. Why should they do that for us, who, with our free will, have created what we have created on the planet? Have we perhaps demonstrated that we are creatures devoted to the light, the great love? It does not seem so, especially in these times. Therefore, yes, there is a part, but the majority, as they say, the vast majority of men do not choose the light, they choose the shadows. On planet Earth, there is now this situation. So why on earth should they give us the keys to the universe? Why should we know all these things? I have understood them and have willingly accepted them, recognizing what our limit is. We are very imperfect creatures, and we are not so devoted to the light after all. Many who speak of spirituality and these matters are often more aligned with other intentions, not those of the light, perhaps with intentions related to their wallets or their egos. We know this. We must be honest and state the facts, or at least I am used to looking at the facts. I may also be uncomfortable, because I am one for uncomfortable truths, but that is not my problem. It is a problem for others. But I repeat, why should they have given us these keys to the universe, explaining everything to us? Like when I asked, how did man come into being? How was it created the first time? There are all these things. He tells me that on certain topics, man is not obliged to know everything. So, there is a reason behind that 7. However, it is certain that in all these experiences that I hear about from many people who see many lives, it is, and he tells me that, in reality, we do not have contact with the soul, even when there is a meeting with our deceased. It is not that. In mediumship, there is an encounter with the soul, who speaks about this. He says, no, you have an encounter with a reflection of the soul. It's as if it were a hologram, also because, if you reason that is, the soul detaches from this dimension, we wouldn't be able to see it here. The souls that are here are usually souls that, unfortunately, are not doing very well, those that have remained in this dimension. However, the soul, as they say, is called to move on. So there is a passage, the famous tunnel with the little white light, which is the trajectory, where The soul detaches from the chakra at the level of the heart, to then pass into another dimension. Therefore, what is seen here on this earth is nothing more than a hologram, a reflection of the soul, as he calls it. When many lives and many fragments are seen, one might see many fragments of the same life, in different realities, but they are still fragments of the same life. However, he says that at most, the human soul can be understood, because then there are the souls of animals, which is another matter, and they also belong to different families. He explains clearly that the souls of animals do not have a level of arbitrariness. Among other things, they are those who have a more advanced evolution than ours, probably precisely because they do not have an arbitrary level, and therefore do not choose evil as humans do, who, being here in this dualism, choose between good and evil. It seems that humans are now much more inclined to choose evil. So, to return to our discussion, once there, it is clearly explained what the importance is of truly living our lives, making good choices, and understanding that it is important to undertake journeys from a spiritual perspective, to evolve our soul. Now, let's move on. We are at Life on Earth, page 8081. I have read it. From page 151 to page 79 are the pages that discuss the other facets of love. Now I will start reading the pages that you have pointed out to me. Then we will talk about it. Someone among you has written, remember, if you have chosen any numbers between page 151 and 179, this is a topic that relates to your question. Specifically, on page 156, it is written that suffering arises from the heart. We are talking about the other facets of love, and we will discuss it further. Suffering arises from the heart, but remember that it is always the mind that amplifies your pain. Therefore, if you want to save your heart, if you want to stop suffering, you must work on your thoughts, on your mind. For example, when you suffer for love, you begin to pierce your heart with your thoughts. All of this happens because you keep amplifying your pain, constantly thinking and rethinking the same thing. The more you think, the more you destroy it, you tear it apart. You make your heart into shreds until it becomes unrecognizable, even to yourselves. And yes, you manage to do this to the most beautiful thing you have, that is, your heart, your treasure of a man. On page 166, we find that for the other aspects of love, it is written that, like everything, suffering also has its positive side. It may seem strange to you, but there is something positive and useful even in pain. Don't think that everything that makes you feel bad is bad. It is not so. What can make you feel bad can also be a good thing. Suffering serves to open the heart. Many men do not need to suffer to open their hearts, because they have already opened them. But for those who are not used to living by listening to their heart, suffering serves a purpose. And you would know how it helps. It aids in opening not only the doors of the heart and knowledge, but also the heavily locked gates. When you suffer, you are compelled to question yourself more, to delve deeper into the meaning of life, the behaviors of men, and the feelings you are experiencing. By living through suffering, you learn and grow in awareness. Some of you, after experiencing great suffering, change a great deal in life and truly grow a lot. On page 170 it says that to hate means not to believe in love and light, choosing to extinguish oneself inside and consequently extinguishing one's own soul. This is why today man finds himself increasingly divided, increasingly torn between good and evil. As you can see, free will is the means that you must learn to use. Use greater awareness if you want to save yourself, your life, your soul, and even your planet and well-being. And it tells us again, hatred drains your energy, bringing you unhappiness and fatigue. It is a feeling that one must learn to control. Man conceives hatred in a very fierce manner. The hatred of man equates to destruction, to elimination, to the insatiable desire to hurt, to do harm. But you who are reading these words of mine, remember that you should not go that far. Hatred should correspond at most to a smaller love, to a feeling that is a little less than love, and not to destruction. These are two very important pages. So, what does the other side of love mean? It means that there is a single energy, which is that of love. This is the only energy that exists, the energy of love. Then, this energy of love, depending on which way we turn the hands. So, it is an energy of love that then turns and becomes hatred. So, hatred is love turned upside down, right? As it is said, it is always the same energy, only it is an inverted energy because hatred is energy, and energy is negative. So, he says, well, when there is something wrong, you shouldn't reach a point where, he says, hatred in man reaches very destructive and very bad vibrations. He says, well, if you really want to get angry, you can be a bit out of balance, but don't reach a point of destruction, right? To hate others, to be obsessed with other people, means, above all, to hate oneself and to harm oneself, as well as generating energy fields that, I repeat, do not benefit anyone beyond the intentions one may have in directing their hatred. However, we must remember that thoughts and emotions are energy and create fields. They are not neutral things. They are very concrete. We do not see them, but they are very concrete. So he says, well, the other facets of love are hatred, envy, jealousy. We should not live this because it is an unbalanced energy of love. But it is unbalanced even when it is in excess. Attention, even when it is in excess, is unbalanced and is not good. So, this energy should be experienced in balance every time we reach extreme states, and therefore exaggerate this energy. We are creating a balance, so this does not enrich health. There are also other pages that I really like, which are the pages on forgiveness, spanning from page 181 to page 188. And so, these pages, as I was saying, are pages that you must read very carefully. Now I'm going to read page 188. I was just looking at, is there anyone who tells us? I wrote page 112, but I'm on my way. I'm on my way. These are the ones I put up this morning, which I saw were on my pages. I'll be there soon. I'll also come to you. I am trying to make you all happy this evening. These pages, page 188, we are on the pages of forgiveness. In forgiveness, he says that forgiveness is the most difficult exercise for man. It is the most difficult exercise for man. To achieve forgiveness, true forgiveness, not just an intention. That is, a declaration of intent, like saying I want to forgive you, but then in reality, there is this moment when the attack starts again. Forgiveness is, because, for it to be true forgiveness, it means that you have undergone such an evolutionary journey, that you have transcended all the demands of your senses, of your ego, and have entered a state where you do not need forgiveness. I say I forgive you, yes, but there are conditions, you see. Forgiveness is quite a difficult exercise, so Let's read this page 188. So from 181 to 188, those numbers concern you. I apologize. Therefore, they concern all of you who may have chosen those numbers. Your life is a moment. This page says, you believe that what you are living now is all of life. But you are mistaken. What you are living now is just a piece of the whole life. And this is true knowledge, to know what true life is. Accept what you are experiencing now, and do not be afraid to live it. This is also another very important step. What is true knowledge? True knowledge and knowing what true life is. If you know what true life is, then you should no longer be afraid, and you should no longer have need. You must know that this life we are living now is nothing more than, as many of you know, I often repeat, this life is nothing but a dream of our soul. Therefore, having knowledge of what this life is means having knowledge of life truly, means having knowledge of life truly. I want to read the first page of forgiveness, even though I don't know if anyone has written it. I haven't seen anyone who has written it. Anyway, now I will go and read a bit of what you have written to me about numbers. So, the first page is about forgiveness, which is page 181. He tells us that there is this beautiful representation. Forgiveness is a tree. It is a tree. When you reach the top of this tree, you gather its most beautiful fruit. It forgives you for having hurt it so much while you climbed its branches. And at the same time, it thanks you for having freed it from a burden that would have fallen, that ripe fruit, later in time, but which you helped to make fall sooner. This is a beautiful description of forgiveness. Reflect on it. If you take this book, read it, see that. These words, I have done a great job, because I have put together, well, it's 10 years of material, so I had to make a summary, but I had to maintain, that is, I kept the words, I put them together, I stitched them, I was a humble instrument, and I made them available to you. However, read and reread these pages, because you will see that each time you reread them, you will deepen your understanding and become more aware. Here, now I want to respond a little. Thank you for your presence. It asks us, thank you for having it here. Then we have Stephania Zuccari, who writes to us, I'll come to you after Stephania. So, page 112. What are we discussing? We are on the pages that talk about good and evil, starting from page 109. So check the numbers. If you have written any numbers, page 109 to page 126, these are the pages that discuss good and evil. So, now, page 112, what do we find written? Here it is. Once, good and evil did not exist. Only good existed. It has been man, with his free will, who has generated good and evil on earth. Earth is the only point in the universe where man still possesses the power of evil. Earth is the only point in the universe where man possesses. In fact, Ariel says that Earth is the dimension where evil can be expressed. But be careful. Evil is expressed through man. Evil is expressed through the free will of man, who chooses to express evil rather than good. Earth is the only point in the universe where man still holds the power of evil. Evil is part of the earth, of your dimension, and it can only prevail on earth if man is with it. If man chooses evil, good can also triumph over evil only if man is with good. But know that evil can only win on earth. For evil cannot attack heaven. It cannot prevail against us, and it knows this. Here, this is also another important step, because if you observe the facts of life, you will understand it. Indeed, evil can express itself because there is a man who chooses to express and chooses to express himself in evil, not in good. As Arya says, look, there is him. Of course, he can do this here, but he cannot do it in another dimension. And don't worry about understanding all the places where he can or cannot be. It doesn't matter. Spend your time on the things that are important. This is also a way of being aware, knowing that there are things that are not important or decisive for our lives, and even if we knew them, they would not serve our lives. For our lives, and therefore for our souls, it is necessary to understand. I repeat what they say about truly understanding what life is, what true life is, what the meaning of life is, what we can do to evolve with our souls, what we do with our free will, or what responsibilities we have in exercising our free will. This is important to know. Don't get caught up in things that are really very, very superficial. Also, no, you don't need them. Now more than ever, we cannot afford to waste so much time. We are no longer in the New Age era. We used to sing about it. We used to tell ourselves stories. And now, I still see certain scenarios being proposed again, which we hope do not lead to the same results as the New Age. Well, Stefania. Our Stefania from Rome. Page 80. Page 80. What does it say on page 80, Stefania? Here we are. We are here. Life on earth. We return to life on earth. It tells us. Look, without life on earth your soul could not evolve. Instead, thanks to reincarnations, one life after another, she progresses along her path, birth and death. And then again, birth and death, live and die as a body to return to live in our dimension as a soul. Here we repeat it again, and we have already read it. And then you die, again as a soul, to be reborn as a man, one body after another, but with a single soul, having the possibility of up to 7 reincarnations. You see, this might not be a coincidence either, as it is a concept that requires revisiting, but it doesn't mean that you have to experience all 7. One might be enough for you, unless you are able to evolve quickly. All this for what? To create around you a light, a path that leads you back to the primordial light from which your soul was born. And this is the true return home. In our culture, in our religion, we talk about returning to the house of the Father, don't we? In reality, it is very nice to have this. What is the Father? It is that whole, it is. That God, it is. That immense, it is. That great mother, and we know that this is the return to the house of the Father, returning, reuniting with our origin. And if we also have this knowledge and awareness, we are truly living our life. Because if there is one thing that is very important for me to tell you, it is that you should. I always say there are things that should be written on the bathroom mirror, on the fridge door, on the dashboard of the car. But if there is one important phrase that we should all have very clear within us, it is that we cannot live our life merely by passing through our time. In other words, we cannot live this life of ours, traversing the time of our earthly existence, without taking away an evolutionary passage at the end of this period of earthly experience, without enhancing the evolution of our soul. This time must ultimately represent an opportunity for the growth of our soul. If it does not lead to any evolution, we have merely passed through our time, but we have not made any points. In short, We have not made time grow. This experience is precisely what earthly life is for. It serves to evolve. So, if we have not acquired these things, we have merely passed through time and the suitcase has gone away empty, and we have taken nothing with us. That has indeed increased their sight and awareness of our soul. So, let's take a look. Thank you. Thank you, dear friends. Let's see a bit. Please, dear Stephania. Here we see what she writes to us, Nadia. One evening, if possible, could you read 200 No, page 28? Ah, page 28 is the beginning on page 28. We are still in the sections that talk about angels. We are right at the start of the manual. Page 28 actually says that I am here. It says, I am here before your eyes. Ow. I have come to help you live without causing you any more pain. I exist and I love you. Do not be afraid. No man is alone on this earth. Of yours. Live the experiences of your time. And above all, remember to live your precious life with goodness and joy. I think that is a more beautiful wish. Here it is. A wish for everyone, not just for Nadia, who made this request. Well, let's see if there are still 112. I had already mentioned this. Let's see if there are any other questions from you, because I have answered those I saw on my profile that mentioned numbers. Thank you. I like it because there is still. So I know that many still don't know that I am here on the channel. Many don't see me. They don't know that I am in this channel. They don't subscribe to me, or they ask me how I am because they haven't seen me. They don't see me. Instead, as I tell you at the beginning, you also need to do this. That is, make some shares to help people know. I, as you know, am here solely to do my service. I have no other interests. I read the number here, Raffaella. If my 89 is still valid, we haven't read it, have we? Let's see what it says. Raffaella. Let's have a look. So, we are on the pages. Age 89. It is life on Earth. Here, everything you will experience in this existence of yours will never be lost. Every experience serves to help your soul grow and to make you understand the meaning of life. The day will come when only your soul and not your body will continue to exist. Face all the challenges you encounter along the way with strength and love, and remember that they are just a moment of your true and great life, the one I hope you will live forever, but not on earth. Here, I would say that this could be a very nice and fitting conclusion. This page is from our very first press release regarding the anti-plans, which I wanted to create with great joy and enthusiasm for you, knowing that you were very attached to this particular section. It ties in perfectly with last Friday's important meeting we had with Ori, who came to give us so much good advice and hope, especially reminding us very well of who we truly are. So, this page is the one that can conclude our first meeting from the press office of the higher plans, because it tells us the most important thing. When do you feel fear? When does your life present you with challenges? When you think that all of this is unbearable, you must remember one thing, that this is not the true life, first of all, and that this experience you are living in this earthly dimension represents only the point, a moment of what is your true great life. Therefore, this expansion of vision regarding the meaning of life. This possibility of broadening horizons, of extending the boundaries of interpretation, of what we are experiencing, remains chained to the views generated by our beliefs and our cultures. Imagine if we learned all these things from a young age. Think about how our lives would be completely different. So many times I hear people say, but why aren't we taught these things from a young age? Why don't they teach us this from when we are little? Do you know what it would mean? I mean, to have much freer minds. Surely we will not be so easily placed in the condition of how we have seen it done, even in this period where the masses are managed with fear. If we had all this awareness, we would rebel. We should already be doing it now. Even now we should rebel against all of this. Because if there is someone who thinks they can subjugate, then, against their will, it means that we are allowing it to happen. However, if we all had awareness of this, we would rebel even more, wouldn't we? And it wouldn't be possible to do this. But really, I mean, in the face of all the heavy trials of life, you see what is happening around us at this time, right? Obviously, one also remains vigilant, right, about what is going on around us. However, we must know how to confront what is happening in the most balanced way possible, even in the face of the heaviest and most serious trials, when there are unavoidable circumstances. I asked Davide this question, but what can we do when you are forced to do things, when people cannot even rebel, when they are placed in coercive conditions or suffer violence? Everything that we see, what is the worst thing we can face? Death, right? The death of a body, which would then be a release from suffering under certain conditions, knowing that we are only leaving behind this medium, this shell, and fortunately our soul is safe instead. Only a body dies. So what could be worse? That our body dies. All right, we know that this body has only been a tool for a moment in our life, in which, through the soul, the energy of our spirit has incarnated to be able to live an experience in this dimension. So many times, we experience things that are not what we have chosen, but we are suffering the effects of the free will of other men who impose their will with oppression, violence, and arrogance. This does not mean that we have chosen that destiny. You see, sometimes I feel like, we have chosen this, but no, just last week we talked about it with Ali, where he said, now speaking about the war and everything that is happening around the world, he told me that you will be souls who will have to live through unchosen destinies. Unchosen. It's not that everything we experience is something we have chosen. There are things that are part of our little plan, our destiny as we call it, and others that we may have generated ourselves with choices that have led us to live different projects from those we should have lived. However, there are also things that we experience that we did not choose, but that we are enduring, meaning we are suffering the effects of the free will of others. This is the condition. That is, in this earthly dimension, there are these variables, and in observing the facts, one must take these variables into account. It is very healthy for our minds to have these things clear. And then, I repeat, when there are things that are so inevitable, Arya said it, when it is like that, you just have to embrace your destiny and pray. So, let's say, the most extreme condition is when that moment arrives, there are violent things that one must simply embrace as their destiny and pray. To ask for help from those who can lift them, to lift us, as soon as possible from physical suffering, like the horrors we see where war represents the expression of evil. There is man when war expresses evil. It is not expressing good, is it? If a man seeks peace, he is expressing good. But if he seeks war, he is expressing evil, isn't he? So you understand how truly evil can exist if man embraces it and decides to express it. The same applies to good. And so the important thing for us to remember is precisely this last sentence, with which I truly thank you all, greet you, and look forward to seeing you the day after tomorrow with another beautiful episode. You will read in the breaking news what our next appointment will be and where. So I remind you of this last sentence. Face all the challenges you encounter along the way with strength and love, and remember that they are just. Moment of your true and great life, the one I hope you will live forever, but not on earth. Okay. And so, dear friends, I would say that we have reached 11 o'clock, and I think we then say goodbye. It is truly always a great pleasure for me to be with you, to know that I am being helpful in some way. I look forward to seeing you next week, and please stay connected with us. Subscribe, click, and activate the bell so you receive the information and notifications. Share our links and invite your friends to join us again here on this channel, to be and to be together once more. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Have a good evening, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Happy to be together with you. See you soon, dear friends.